U4.C6.L6.2. This is part 2 of adding and subtracting inequalities. Take it away, Ms. Benoit.
Hi. So part 1 was the inequality basics. Now we're going to take that a step further, and by the end of this video, you're going to say to yourself that I can find a solution set for one-step inequalities, and we're just doing the adding and subtracting today. So these two problems we will come back to will be the target that you should be able to hit. Okay, so our first example is x plus 3 is, do you remember what that symbol means? Greater than 10. So there are 3 steps that we have to follow when solving for the solution set. First step is you're actually going to solve it. And we're going to go back to what we learned about 1- and 2-step equations and use that process here. We will start with our wall. Then we look at our variable, and to our variable we are adding 3. So to undo that and get the variable to be isolated, we are going to need to subtract 3 from both sides. Our variable is then left alone on the left side, so we have x, 3 minus 3 makes 0, and 10 minus 3 on this side makes 7. Now instead of the equal sign falling down, we don't have an equal sign, we have an inequality, and that greater than symbol then falls down. So our solution set says x is greater than 7. Now we have to do 2 things to make sure that this is correct for this inequality. The next thing that we're going to do is graph it, and you practiced doing this in the last video. So after you solve, you graph. You draw your number line, and the rule was you put the number that's in your solution set in the middle, and then you go 1 to the right and 1 to the left. So we have 7, 1 to the right would be 8, 1 to the left would be 6. Now we're saying x is greater than 7. There's no equal sign with that. So that determines an open circle goes on 7. Draw that open circle. And then x is greater than 7. Which of these is greater than 7, 6 or 8? It's 8. So you're going to draw your line going towards the 8 and beyond. This would encompass our solution set. But now we're going to do one more step to make sure that these 2 things are correct. And we're going to check. Yes, we're still going to do the check. The checks are there. Okay, so we have our solution set, we have our graph, and now we're going to check. So our original inequality is x plus 3 is greater than 10. Look at our graph. Our solution set goes to the right of the 7, and the first number we see is 8. So we're going to test that one in here to see if it's a true statement. If we put 8 in for x and do 8 plus 3, is that going to be greater than 10? What is 8 plus 3? 8 plus 3 is 11, and 11 is greater than 10. So we know that we've solved it correctly and have the correct graph. Those are the 3 things that we're going to have to do for every one of these inequalities. Let's look at another. Negative 6 is greater than or equal to n minus 5. So this time I have our 3 steps already written out, and we're going to do them in order. Step 1, solve. You're going to draw your wall. And remember, we want to isolate the variable. Where is the variable this time? It's not on the left, it's on the right. So we're not going to be moving the negative 6. We want to move the 5. And since it's n minus 5, to undo that subtraction, we're going to have to add 5 to both sides. So plus 5, plus 5. Minus 5 plus 5 makes 0, so we're left with n. And then negative 6 plus 5, this is integers, unit 1. Negative 6 plus 5, you have 2 different, a negative and a positive. You subtract and keep the sign of the larger absolute value. So this would be negative 1. Drop your inequality down. So we have negative 1 is greater than or equal to n. Okay, that's our solution set. So that part's done. Step 2 is our graph. So we're going to draw our number line. We need 3 numbers to go on here. The first one we put is from our solution set that goes in the middle, negative 1. Then we need 1 to the right and 1 to the left. What would be 1 to the right of negative 1? 0. And 1 to the left would be negative 2. All right, now, what kind of circle goes on negative 1? It's greater than or equal to, because we have that equal, it's a closed circle. And negative 1 is greater than or equal to n. So negative 1 would be the biggest. Which way shows smaller? To the right or to the left? To the left is correct. So you would shade towards the negative 2 and beyond. All right, then everybody's favorite, step 3 is the check. So you're going to rewrite the original inequality. Negative 6 is greater than or equal to n minus 5. For n, we're going to put in anything to the left of negative 1, and we see negative 2 on our graph. So we're going to go ahead and put in negative 2. Negative 2 minus 5. And negative 2 minus 5. So you're at negative 2, and you're going 5 more to the left. That's going to be a negative 7. So negative 6 is greater than or equal to negative 7. That's true. Negative 6 is bigger than negative 7. Because with negatives, the smaller the number, the bigger it is. Okay? Good. Now we have one more that's a little bit different. It's all words. So we have an extra step here. We're not just solving, graphing, and checking. We actually have to write the inequality first. So we're going to add rate to our checklist here. 6 more than a number is more than 16. Okay. You have to pick out the key words to help you put this together. So 6 and 16 are the numbers that are going to be in this inequality. More than, that's a key term for us to determine what inequality to use. This more up here actually determines what operation we use. And then when you see the words a number, that's our variable. We don't know what it is, we're looking for it, okay? So we have 6 more than a number. So any number variable that we want to choose, a number, I'm just going to use x, so that takes care of that. 6 more than that, that would be addition, so we're going to add 6 to it. Is more than, so that would be greater than, and then our 16. These are a little bit harder to do, and it'll take a little time to get used to picking them apart and using those keywords. All right, now we're ready to solve, graph, and check. So let's do the solve. Draw the wall. We have x plus 6. So to get the variable alone, we're going to have to subtract 6 from both sides. Those make 0, so we're left with x is greater than 10. So that's our solution set, or we think. Now we're going to graph it. 10 will go in the middle, and we need a point to the right and a point to the left. Okay, so a point to the right would be greater, that would be 11. A point to the left would be less, so that would be 9. This is x is greater than, there's no equal to. So what kind of circle does that give us? That gives us an open circle. And x is greater than 10. Which is greater than 10? 9 or 11? Hopefully you said 11, so we're going to shade to the right. Okay, and then our check. We're going to test that point, that 11. So we have x plus 6 is greater than 16. Put in 11. And 11 plus 6 is 17. 17 is greater than 16. So we're good. All right, those are the types of problems you're going to see. So now we're going to see how well you can hit the target here. We have 2 problems that we'd like you to try, 2 inequalities. H plus 4 is greater than 4, and x minus 6 is less than or equal to 4. You're going to do the 3 steps: solve, graph, and check. Good luck.